Hello everyone, this is Michele Moore, living life holistically, and it's so great to be here in my body, mind and spirit, giving you this holistic hour show to empower your mind. Today is about the mind. The mind is so powerful, right? So powerful. It can be so constructive, but yet so destructive at the same time. And it's about utilizing that mind, strengthening that mind. That mind is a muscle. So we have to exercise it and ensure that we're doing everything we can to keep it healthy, to keep it strong, and empowering us to do everything that we need and want to do. That is the key, but it's also a challenge, especially in a time like this where there's so much playing on our minds. There's so much that is creeping in and keeping us under, tricking our minds to believe certain things and fears and just keeping us down. It is a daily practice, and especially for everybody at this time going through these challenges. It's a daily practice for myself. It always has been. It's about applying techniques, obviously being disciplined with those techniques, but we really have to do the work, and that's where it starts, with the mind. Everything else will follow, but the mind is like the powerhouse behind everything we do and everything we are, everything we believe. You know, whether we want to implement a new lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle, a plant-based lifestyle, or just an exercise regime, everything stems from the power of your mind, strengthening your mind. It lies in the core, really. It really does, the core of you, and everything else spans from that. So mental health is a part of being healthy. Having a healthy mind, having a healthy body, and having a healthy spirit. A healthy person, healthy beliefs, healthy morals. Healthy mind is what today's show is about. Mental health. And everything that we need to do to ensure that we're keeping our minds healthy. It's those beliefs that we have. It's the ingrained thoughts that run through our heads, whether they're positive or negative. It's about how we connect with the mind on a daily basis and whether we are actually connecting. Being aware of our individual minds and what it's saying to us, what it does, and going deeper beyond the surface of the thoughts that run through our minds every day. But going deeper into the core to understand who you really are, what you really think of yourself, and whether there's anything in that mind that needs correcting, that needs healing because of past experiences, past traumas, relationships, whatever it may be. Most of the time there's a residue in ourselves that we haven't dealt with, or sometimes we don't even know it's there, that needs to be cleaned out, cleared up, and moved out, and made way for the new you to come in place, the new seeds that you need to grow, the new life that you need to breed, and so that you can blossom and you can now develop beautiful fruits and you can give to the world. But in order to do that, that seed has to grow in a foundation, in an environment that is thriving, that is healthy. And that's where mental health comes in. A healthy mind, a healthy body, a healthy spirit, everything comes into play. But we need to think about the environment that we're living in every day, not just the physical environment. Right now we're talking about the mental environment. You have your mind and your thoughts, but what environment does that live in every single day? Is it a positive one? Is it a negative one? Is there an internal fight going on? Is there something that needs to be healed? Something that needs to be recognized, dealt with? Those are the questions to ask yourself. And there isn't anything too great that can't be dealt with. The first step is acknowledging and just trying to recognize what's going on. Asking for help, speaking about it. This is what this show is about. Sharing and speaking and just releasing. The power of just talking and releasing whatever you have going on. And that releasing, that speaking can be in any form, whether you confide in a personal friend, relative, therapist, or you confide in yourself, speaking to yourself. I speak to myself a lot of the time. I speak to spirit. It's so good. It's a way of getting inside your head, but getting outside of your head. Releasing it, taking it outside of yourself so that you can be freer, you can be lighter. So don't see mental health as an issue. See it as guidance. It's showing you areas that need to be healed, areas that can be improved, so that, guess what? You can become the best person that you want to become. You can help yourself do the things that you need to do and you want to do to fulfill those desires, to tackle that goal. So mental health is just as important as your physical health, as your spiritual health, as your emotional health. Yes, it's right up there as well. So see this as something on the list that should be there, and something that you would try to look into a bit more and see how you can improve your mental health. All right, so let's introduce today's guest for this really interesting show about the mind. So Sue-Tanya, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. Well, you deciding to share this part of your story, because I know this is a real sensitive subject for a lot of people. And I really feel that we need to open up more to help ourselves more when it comes to mental health, and really understanding really what mental health is, and
Yes.
how it really does affect us all, I believe.
Yes.
It has a horrible stigma associated, and I feel that's why people shy away from talking about it, are ashamed, embarrassed of being humiliated and cornered and labeled as somebody who is, mentally challenged, or a lunatic, or whatever negative connotations that people associate with it. And to realize even just having compulsive negative thoughts is a part of poor mental health, is a mental health issue.
It is.
And so, we shouldn't disregard the fact that on the mental health spectrum, you're going to have different extremes, and we shouldn't label and put somebody down who's maybe at the higher extreme. It is something that mentally challenges you. It's an imbalance, something that affects your everyday life, and something that we really, if we really just open and share and talk about it, we realize that a lot of us are actually struggling with the same issues.
The same issue. That is true.
And it's nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, the moment you start to share and let out, you realize how you can really break free and help yourself and help each other. And this is what this is all about. So I just wanted to thank you, because it's, it has been quite a sensitive subject for people. So tell us a bit more about you. Let's understand what's really going on in that mind of yours.
So I'm from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been living here for quite some time. I was born in Jamaica, and I moved to Canada in 1998. And throughout my life, actually, when I was more so around a teenage, I just found there were these periods where I would start struggling with myself mentally, with my thoughts mostly, and my emotions. And as I got into adulthood, it just became worse, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I also didn't have the support system either to deal with it. So now I've been living with this mental health problem for all these years, not really knowing what it is, how to identify it, how to even feel about it, but just knowing that it's a part of my life and I just have to live with it. And as I just got older and older, and I started to learn more, I was able to realize that, hey, this is something that other people deal with, not only me.
Right, good.
Right? And at one point, I had to get counselor and stuff like that, because if you don't, it can become worse. So like right now, currently, I get to those points where I still struggle mentally with depression with my thoughts and emotionally. And that sometimes can take me into a whole different place where I don't want to be. It has me feeling a whole different way that I don't want to feel.
Right.
Yeah.
So going back to the early days, was this diagnosed as anything? Was it labeled as a particular type of mental health issue?
It wasn't labeled, not necessarily. For myself, it wasn't necessarily labeled. Now, there's a lot of things that come with it because, as I said, like I was born in Jamaica and then I came here. And coming from the Caribbean as a young child and coming to a foreign country,
Right.
they see it as a mental health challenge that you have.
See.
And they start to label you, especially as a young child, when really you could just be a child, just, doing things that normal children do. But because you're not from that country and you're coming from the Caribbean, they label you differently. So that's what it was for me when I was younger.
And do you remember what type of issues you were struggling with, or what the outcome was of your mental health?
So for me, I don't remember specifically. Now, I will say when I came here, I grew up in foster care after the first, I would say 2 years of moving to Canada. So, and foster care is basically a home where children go where their parents can't really cope with them or understand them, or people label it as a home for bad kids. Right. Pretty much is what they label it for. But it's just a home for children who don't live with their parents. They pretty much live with the government, if you want to call it that. And when you're put into that circumstances, naturally a child who's been taken from one place, being Jamaica, and being brought to another place, and all these things are going on in their life that they don't understand, naturally, they start having behavioral problems. So they start lashing out, not because maybe they're mentally challenged, but they're needing something in that moment that they aren't getting.
Right. And due to the circumstances, it's new, it's difficult, it's about adjusting, and they need that extra support.
Exactly.
So this went on throughout your life, basically, from the period that you moved there up until...
Yes, this was about
adulthood.
Let's say about 13 years old.
Okay.
Which to me is a very young age.
Yeah, that's when you're
right?
shaping yourself in the world and trying to
figure out who you are.
Who you are, yeah. Just your little place in this world at that stage. There's so many stages in life, but that's really core in, I guess, identifying you as a person and your place.
Yes.
So fast forward into now adulthood. You have children?
I do have children. I have 2.
Right. How is your life now? Because obviously everything that's happened to us, it shapes and forms who we are today. And that shape, whatever we mold, the outcome of that depends on if we've dealt with childhood trauma, personal experiences, issues that we've been through. We can't change what happened, but we can heal ourselves in order to now shape a better person moving forward. So in terms of what has happened in the past and the life you're living now, tell us about how you feel you've dealt with what happened then and molding this person that you are now.
Now, I'm still shaping who I am.
Okay.
I'm still dealing with everything, especially now that I have kids. I have to be more cautious, and I have to take care of myself even more so now than ever, because I don't want my children to have to go through what I went through. Right. So a lot of days are a struggle for me still. And when I say struggle, same thing, mentally, it's a struggle. Emotionally, it's a struggle. And I have to get myself to that point where I can become aware.
Mm.
So even though I have my good days, I also have my bad days. And when I'm on what I would call, let's say, a bad day or a day where I'm learning still, I have to become aware. And in order for me to become aware, I have to pull myself back from the situation or whatever is going on with me at the time, and start asking myself, like, why am I feeling this way? Why is this emotion coming up?
Right.
What is it that is attached to this that's allowing me to go into, let's say, this deep depression? Why is it that I'm feeling so sad?
Right.
Some days I sit there and I just want to cry, and I don't know why. And I have to ask myself those hard questions. Why is it that I am feeling this way?
And that's
as I
okay.
said,
Yeah, it's okay to cry.
yeah,
I cried last night, actually.
yeah.
I was
So
with
do
my
I.
thoughts, and I don't see crying as an issue anymore. I don't speak about it as if, or be ashamed to even speak about it. I cried, and it was a heavy cry, and I see crying as cleansing the soul.
Exactly.
We are all, life is an ongoing challenge.
It
And
is.
I try to explain to people, you don't get to a place. There's no place to get to. We're continuously evolving. And
Yes.
it's a journey. So that means it's moving. We're constantly moving. And with that tide, or with that flow, I should say, it's going to take us up and it's going to bring us down. And it's just about realizing and accepting that, and not feeling ashamed or a failure or embarrassed to even say, yeah, I'm feeling a bit low today. And I think the key thing is just like what you said, acknowledging, firstly,
Yes.
how you're feeling, getting in touch with those emotions,
Yes.
and understanding that it will change. It will be up, it will be down.
Yes.
But you're in control of them. And
Yes.
the more you get in control, the more you feel like you can help yourself, and life isn't just something that you just go with the flow and it takes you to wherever it takes you. You can actually stand back, take charge, observe what's going on, and then steer yourself into the direction that you need to go in.
That you need to go in. Yes.
I know this is kind of easy to say right now, because I feel that we're in a good position where we can do that, but a lot of people can't even get to that first stage of just identifying and grabbing hold of that negative thought, grabbing hold of that first initial stage of destruction, and try to sit with it and just process it to understand what's going on.
Yes.
So imagine that first step just non-existent. And I remember back in the day, that's where I was. There was no putting a pause or brakes on anything. It was just a spiral, just took me under, and that's it. The next minute, you're looking up, you're in depression.
Say, I remember the first time I actually became aware of my thoughts and like was able to sit with it was the first time I went into meditation. And that was the first time I was actually able to sit with it. And although it was a scary thing, it opened me to so much more.
Wow.
And when you're opened to so much more, it's almost like, do I really want to go back, or do I want to keep searching and moving forward? Right? And it just becomes this journey that you now go on. And that was the first time I ever was able to sit with my thoughts. And it was not easy, because when you start seeing those thoughts run by through your mind, you're like, huh? What? Like, these are the things that actually go through my head. Because on a regular day, you're not realizing all the thoughts that are running through your mind, because you're always on the go. Your thoughts are always on the go. So you're not always seeing everything. But when you actually take the time to sit in peace and sit in stillness, you're able to see all of that.
Very true. And I think that's the key thing about it, is recognizing, and it's like looking yourself back in the mirror, but emotionally. So you can't see your emotions, but you're confronting yourself, and
Yeah.
you're putting yourself in that position where you're faced, in a position where you have to listen, you have to feel them in order for you to now understand what's going on, and do something about it. It's uncomfortable, but I feel we have to be uncomfortable to get comfortable, right?
Yes.
And that's the only way to really dig deep and change something so much that, it now changes your lifestyle, it changes your sense of self, it changes your thought process. It's something that needs to be done. So I just want to highlight the fact that although we're saying it's, scary, uncomfortable, it's something that inevitably it will feel that way, because it's a bit of the unknown, but at the same time it's going to take you to a place that will give you that liberation and freedom of living in being trapped inside yourself and trapped inside your mind.
And I always say to people, like, it's it's like anything you learn for the first time. It's always uncomfortable, right? It's the exact same thing. It's no different. You learn a new skill, you start a new job, you learn a new skill. It's your first time doing it. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's your first time speaking to someone. It's going to be uncomfortable. Right?
Totally.
So it's no different. It's just in a different form. And that's it.
Totally. I think you touched on another good point there. Feeling comfortable speaking to someone.
Yes.
And having spoken to a few people myself, that's one of the biggest issues. Feeling able to trust somebody that they can confide with, open up and share with, and not feel humiliated or judged. A lot of people struggle with that. I do believe those people exist. It's just a matter of feeling them spiritually, and just feeling comfortable with them. And once you do get that, then just gently open up and hopefully share. I remember when I first had counseling a few years back, after just basically being in a place where I just didn't know myself. I was left a terrible relationship. At the time, I didn't know it was as bad as it was. And it just, left me in pieces, I guess, broken pieces. And I didn't know who I was. There was really nothing left to pick up. So I had to put myself back together. And it was a journey of self-discovery. I had to really figure out who I really was, because I gave myself to this person, this relationship, and not realizing that I really didn't give myself. I wasn't really showing and expressing me, the true me, because I didn't know who I was at that time. So I went through a series of counseling, and I mean, it was the most amazing experience I've ever been through, to help me in such a destructive time of my life. I even used some of those skills and tools that I was taught, and that I actually did with my therapist at the time. It was an opportunity to just completely be free, open up, and just release. Like, literally talking just felt like releasing. We did different techniques, but just speaking was just therapy for me at the time. It does so much. And now I'm able to like use some of those techniques in my everyday life, as well as everything else I've learned along the way. So how have you helped yourself when you've got to this stage where you can assess, you can like pinpoint, you can identify and try to help yourself? But how did you get from where you were to here?
From where I was to here, how did I get there?
In terms of coping skills, like, how did you teach yourself that? How did you get to?
Pretty much self-taught.
Wow.
So as I said, like, it first started with meditation. And once I realized that it was a tool that I can really use to help myself, I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to discover more. And I would find like little retreats that I can go to, like little meditation classes. And I'm a person who naturally likes to learn. So once I find something that I completely enjoy, I now start putting myself in the position where I can learn other things and extending that knowledge. And I also did counseling for a few years. And even up to, I would say, yesterday or the day before yesterday, I even acknowledged to myself, hey, you need to go back and see a counselor or a therapy. And I was okay with that. Right? So over the years, it's just knowing, because I'm a natural learner and I love to learn. And as I said, when I find something where I'm like, I can really see how this can help me, I naturally put myself in the position or look for things that I can use to extend my knowledge and take me a little further or a little deeper.
I see. That's amazing though, Sue-Tanya. Really. Like that's huge. That's major. There's one thing being eager and open to learning, but when you're dealing with the mind and dealing with yourself, even, a lot of the time we need help outside ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But you've been on your own little journey and you've been able to help and heal yourself.
Yeah. And it hasn't been perfect either. Like, there are days where I completely slip back into my old behavioral patterns. And when I get back to that place, you can see the difference. Okay. And it's like, oh, like it's night and day. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is not the place that I want to be anymore. Right. This is not this is not a place that I want to be teaching my kids from. Totally. Right? So, as I said, it's up and down. Like, there are days, you have good days, you have bad days. Some days I go back right into that old behavioral pattern. Some days I am fine, and I just take it as a journey, as a lesson, and I just keep rolling with the punches.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Mental health. When you talk about, having a good mental health and ensuring that you're mentally balanced and, your mind is right, all of this boils down to your self-development, progress, and just bettering yourself. Yep. And so whether you're taking counseling sessions, seeing a therapist, speaking to yourself, meditation classes, going through a series of depression, and you're deciding to help yourself or speak to a friend, all of this boils down to improving self. And there's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to improving
nothing
self.
at all to be ashamed of. It's everyone goes through it. Mm-hmm. Right?
Whether they want to admit that or not, right?
Yeah, everyone goes through it in some way, shape, or form, whether they want to admit it or not. Mm-hmm. And it takes a really strong person to look at themselves in the mirror and say, hey, I need to change. Right. I need this change. And I remember, I'm going to tell you a story. It was the first day that it's almost like a testimony for me. And I remember my kids were gone for the weekend, and I just felt very heavy. And I was sitting in my daughter's room, and I was just crying and crying and crying. And at that moment, I felt like I wanted to kill myself. And I said to myself, God, like, if it's not my time to go, I need you to let me know. Right. And within seconds of saying that, my phone went off and an email came through. And the email was from this lady that I took a hair class with. And you know how they send like those, what would you call it? Funnel emails? Right. I would call it, yeah. And the email was titled, Thinking About Suicide.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. Wow. It was literally, I still have the email in my inbox.
Right. Oh my goodness.
And it said, Thinking About Suicide. Think again. Wow. And from that moment, let me tell you, girl, I was on the computer. I was searching for ways to change my life. I was looking at Tony Robbins courses. I was looking at everything there was, because I was like, there's no way. Mm-hmm. Like, this was a clear enough sign.
That's no coincidence. I don't believe in those, and that's no accident. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I still have that email till this day. So, you know, you just have to be able to look in the mirror and, you know, see the strength in you and that you can make it through it. And if you feel that you can't, then you have to look to a higher power.
I really believe that even though we can get to a place where, you know, we feel we've done all the work, I
Mhm.
still feel that there's always more. And sometimes we do need, most of the time I should really say, we do need that extra help outside of ourselves. I feel that there's only so much we can do to a point. I think it depends on your trauma, your challenges, your journey, in your real deep issues, you know. But sometimes we really need to admit that we need that extra help outside ourselves. There's people there listening right now feeling they can definitely relate to what's been said. Speaking is the first step. Just like breaking that ice, breaking that barrier, and just speaking to someone.
Yeah.
So some people haven't spoken to anybody about stuff that they're going through, and not
Yeah.
admitting that they're going through depression, that they've lived this trauma. Like, release this burden, release this heavy load, because I've been there. And
Yeah.
the moment, the power of speaking, I realized the power of speaking is tremendous.
It is tremendous. And I remember at a point where I wasn't even able to speak about my own story or what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of that comes from family dynamics, especially growing up in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Like, you're not supposed to talk about how you feel, right? You're not supposed to tell other people outside of the home
Right.
about what's going inside of your home, going on inside of your home. So when you're raised in that type of environment, you naturally grow up not wanting to speak about your story or what you're feeling. And that makes it even more difficult. And it's something that we have to move away from, because even though our parents and our grandparents don't want to speak about it, right? There's power in sharing your story. There is healing in talking about what you're going through.
Totally.
Yeah. And that, like, you know, sometimes you can tell a story and you never know who you may be helping by just sharing that little bit of experience that you went through.
Definitely. Definitely. And I can guarantee you will be sharing and helping somebody on their journey. And just if it's just helping them to open up their mouth, just
Yeah.
that little bit, or for the first time, makes a huge difference. And I really wish that people would just see this and try to help themselves in that way.
Yeah.
Just find the right person to speak to. Just literally release it from yourself.
I still get judged till today
Yeah.
by some of my family members for talking about my story, but it is my story, it is my experience, it is what I went through. So I'm going to talk about it.
Good
Right?
for you. Yeah. You wanted to release yourself of that burden. You wanted to help yourself. You're on your journey, your path. So why not? This is all about you. And on top of it, you don't need that extra pressure from other family members. Why do we? I think we put so much pressure on ourselves as a family, as, you know, if people want to call it, it's a cultural thing. I think we live in this false world thinking that we're so prim and proper, perfect, that these things don't happen to us. And if they do, we need to keep it trapped in the house, not let anybody know. But guess what? You don't even need to tell me. I know it's already happening. It's, some of it's inevitable, some of it is just life. And without you telling your story, I could probably guess the issues that have gone on.
Yes.
You know, the infidelities, the sexual abuse, the, you know, children doing things with each other, growing up trying to find themselves. I mean, I've heard this story so many times. A lot of people are ashamed of it, but that's how we've grown up. It doesn't define who you are, it happened. But it's about whether you let that now destroy the life you're living now, your adulthood, or you heal yourself so that you can live the life that you deserve.
That is true.
You know, and that's why we have a lot of walking wounded. We have a lot of people in denial, and at the core of themselves, they're a different person to what they put out to the world, because they haven't dealt with the issues, or they're acting like these things never happened in their family or their life. And you know, we're innocent, we're a saint. No, the more you come down to reality and understand and accept that, you'll be very surprised that we'll have a similar story once you open up and
Very
listen to
similar.
mine. Very similar, if not the same.
Yeah, that's true.
So how do we encourage people to have that power to just make that first step and speak?
I would say to even have that first step, you need to find the courage within yourself. And just to know that no matter what anybody else thinks, if it ain't God, no matter what anybody else thinks, doesn't matter. Right? It's finding the courage within you to be able to open up and share a part of you, becoming more vulnerable. Right? Even if you don't have the strength to talk, take a piece of paper and write down what you're feeling. Right? There's also power in writing those words down on a sheet of paper. Journal if you need to. So, it's a difficult thing to start. It's a difficult process to start, but you have to find that courage within yourself, even if it's a friend. A friend, a cousin, someone that you trust and that you feel you can open up to. Do that.
Yeah, really, really helps. Releasing.
Yes.
Whether that's form of, pen and paper, writing it, speaking it, meditation, releasing it from your energy zone. And I feel that when people sort of recognize that they're healing themselves, they're helping themselves, understanding the purpose behind it. Why do you want to get rid of this? Why do you want to release this? Because you want to feel free inside yourself. You want to live the life that you've always wanted to live, that you deserve. You want to come out of this trap of this such a destructive zone when you're literally living inside your mind, prison inside yourself.
You want to feel whole.
Yeah, you want to feel whole. You want to feel connected, being able to communicate and relate to people and just be. So much comes from that. Have you noticed that since you kind of, set yourself free, some of it isn't even directly related, but because you at the core have opened up and healed and changed, it just uncovers so much other things in your life for the better.
Oh, definitely. It definitely does that. And it takes you into other places where you've never been. Right? It allows you to discover so much more. As you said, the first step, you have to become aware.
Yeah.
Like I always say that it's, if you're not aware that you even need to take the first step, then you can't take the first step.
Right.
Because you have to be able to see that, hey, I'm having this problem. Or, hey, I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling this type of emotion. And then you could say to yourself, okay, what is my next step? What can I do to move forward?
It is a process, isn't it? Basically, Sue-Tanya, it is a process.
It is a process, and it's a process that unfortunately is ongoing, and it never really ends. You're always developing at some point in your life, because the person who you are today is not the person who you'll be tomorrow.
Right.
And is not the person who you'll be 5 years from now. Right?
But I think that ongoing development is a good thing.
It is.
I just feel like it's about facing the fact that you need to take that journey to help yourself. But once you've come to a place where you're healed enough that you can now go out in the world and not have to undergo this therapy, and you can now become your own therapist when times in need arrive and you need to go inside and zone in and do that inner work. But initially, if it's that bad and you need help, speak up, get the work done. But just know that, again, as I said before, there's no destination. There's no final destination. You kick up foot and everything's plain sailing. No, you just get to a place where it's manageable, and where you kind of flow with life when breeze is so strong, it blows you over. You don't crack, you don't fall down, and your foundation is strong. You can bounce back, and you can take yourself inside and say, you know what, I'm going to hibernate for this weekend. I do that often. And I'm going to connect with my inner self and inner being and do some inner work.
Exactly.
And strengthen myself at the core to now bring myself back out in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
it's a process.
Another thing you have to learn to is, while we're on this journey, we can't compare ourselves to others.
Oh gosh, no.
And what others are going through and how fast they may be moving.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're not moving as fast as them, and you need things to hurry up and the process to hurry up. No, it doesn't work like that. So we have to be more mindful of comparing ourselves to other people and what they're going through and the improvements that they're making.
Right. Yes. We're all on this journey.
Exactly.
But we all need to live our unique life journey at the same time.
Yes.
So do what's true to you, what's right for you. And you're going to have your unique lessons and blessings. So you can't try and compare and try to be where somebody else is when you're not quite there yet. And you might just get there tomorrow, but because you haven't learned the lessons on the way, you won't get the blessings. So just take your journey.
And sometimes you need to be taught the same lesson over again, because maybe the first time you didn't get it.
There you go. Or you decided that I'm not going to speak up. I'm not going to share. I'm going to keep it trapped inside myself. And so your life continues to show you the same things cropping up again and again, same issues. And you have a choice. So I'd like to just, for whoever's listening, just to say, I really hope this has resonated deep. I hope that if this wasn't for you, this is for somebody that you may know. Please pass this on to them, share the recording, or speak to them, or help them open up in some way. But I think we have a duty, especially at this time. So many people are struggling with mental health issues. It's a really challenging time. We need to be there to support each other and stop this foolishness about closing our lip, being ashamed, and trapping ourselves in our own life. We can save a life just by talking.
We definitely can.
Just by listening.
Yes.
So
listening, there's power in listening.
Power. So please take that away, if not anything else.
Yeah.
So Sue-Tanya, thank you so much. I still feel there's so much more to talk about. So much more. We might have to bring you back on the show.
Maybe there could be a part 2.
I know. A follow-up, because especially with the mind, that's just my specialized area, and it's so deep and complex and powerful, as we know. So, we can never really stop talking about the mind.
Yes.
It always excites me. But for now, that is where we will leave it. But it's been a pleasure just going a bit deeper, going deep into the mind and just sharing. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So take care of yourself, and we'll stay in touch, definitely. And I'm sure we can continue to learn from each other and obviously share.
Definitely. Thank you.
Totally. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So this is a segment of the show where we take it internally. We go inside and connect. And today we're going to be mindful. We're going to be still and dedicate these last few minutes to ourselves, to this very present moment. So just engage in the body wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Just relax and just ensure that you release any tension, whether that's in your shoulders, in your head. Take some deep breaths to just be here, be present, and just be still. So much of the time is spent racing ahead of time, trying to get things done, projecting into the future, thinking about something that just happened, and just ignoring the precious time that you have, which is right here, right now. Everything is done in the present moment. So we need to give attention and focus to that moment. And we need to ensure that we approach that moment being balanced, being calm, being still. Because with that now we're able to achieve and obtain everything that we're working on from that position that we're now in. It takes away the stress, the tension, the frustration when we deal with the very present moment. Because right here, right now, if you can hear this show and if you can watch this show, you are healthy, you are blessed, you are alive, and you have so much to give thanks for. And with just that, allows you to think of other things you're grateful for, and it naturally puts you in a state of joy, well-being, happiness, gratitude, because you realize right here, right now, you don't have a problem. The problem lies with what your mind is telling you about your life situation. Yes, you might have something that you need to attend to, something that needs to be done. There could be an issue. But right in this very, very moment that you have for yourself right now, you focused the time on just being here, taking a breath and a breather away from everything outside. And so with that power of right here, right now, you can choose how you're going to approach and respond to life, respond to that situation, respond to that issue, respond to that person, and allowing this moment to just absorb positive energy, calm energy. It allows you to now take that step back out in life and deal with those situations from a better place, a better perspective, a better state of mind. And so your problems or your issues don't have to be stressful. It's about how you respond and trying to maintain this calm, balance, this sense of peace and connection and being present. It helps us in so many ways when we're living the lives that we live. So let's just stay here in this moment and take some deep breaths and just get used to being in this state and feeling comfortable, being relaxed, and just taking a breather from life. Let's take some deep breaths in and hold and release. And a deep breath in and release. When we become mindful of our body, whether we're holding tension, stress, anxiety, and whether we're allowing the body to now pick up on those emotions, those feelings, those sensations. And we realize sometimes that we have tension in our shoulders, in our legs, in our back, in our head. And being mindful of that helps us correct what we need to correct, which will allow us to change the way we think, which then changes the way we feel, and then changes how we focus that feeling in the body and how we approach life. It has an effect on our actions, which eventually affect our outcomes, our situations, our relationships, our lives. So it's a complete cycle, and it's about changing it from the top, changing it from the core, starting with the mind, and letting everything else positively and naturally flow in a good state, in a healthy state. Let's just be mindful. Let's just be aware. Let's spend the time focusing on ourselves as well as everything else we do every day throughout the day. Be mindful about you, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions. Just by controlling how you respond to everything that happens in your life. You have a choice. And it starts with being mindful. So as we continue to just take a couple deep breaths in and out, and in and out, and bringing ourselves and our awareness back to our environment. Still remaining this calm and peaceful attitude and flow, and carrying this out wherever you go, whatever you do. So continue to be mindful, stay healthy, and stay well.